guys, it's Alice. Welcome to another Freelance Friday video. This is actually my second video in the series. I hope you enjoyed last week's video. I will leave that linked down below in a playlist. But if you are clicking on this video, you're obviously in need of some tax return advice. I have been filing tax returns since I was 16. I'm now 23, so that was 7 years ago. And I've learned a fair bit. I'm still not an expert, as I always say, so if there's anything I miss or anything I say a little bit wrong, please do let me know down in the comments. But I am here to share what I've learned over the past 7 years and some tips, because I've had quite a few of you guys asking me what on earth to do, how on earth to get started and all those things. So if you enjoy this video, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe for my future Freelance Fridays. Let me know what you'd like to see next, and we're going to go straight into it. Firstly, I want to I want to describe the basic idea of a tax return, what it is that you're actually telling the taxman, because I know that I just didn't get it. I didn't get what I was telling him, what number he needed to know, I just didn't get it. So I've made a handy little diagram, which I'll put on the screen here. I've also written a full blog post with all this information in written form, so if you want to go and check that out after I've told you in the video, please do. I'll leave that link down below. So the basic idea of it is that you need to know 3 things pretty much. So this is like the really basic version of tax returns, but this is how I explain it to people. So income is the one thing that you need to know. So you need to know how much you've earned freelance, or how much you've learned from savings investments or property, anything like that. You need to know. So add up your income. Then you also need to add up your expenses. So you need to work out what things you have purchased to aid your business. This isn't if you've booked a holiday to Tenerife for a lol, you can't class that as an expense. This is for paper or postage stamps, anything that is to do with your business. Maybe you've bought a new printer, maybe I buy a new camera, that classes as a business expense because of the nature of my business. So that is part 2. And then what you need to do after that is take away the expenses from the income. So in my little handy graph that you can see on screen, I have done it as an example, a really round number, but for example, if I earned £3,000 of income from the various sources, and then I spent £500 on a new camera that year, what I would do is take away the 500 from the 3,000, and that leaves me with my gross income. So that is my income after I have accounted for everything that I've bought. So the gross income is basically the only number that the taxman really cares about. How you get to that number is up to you. You generally create yourself a spreadsheet or use one online, but the number that you are asked for on the tax return website is that final gross income number. So that is the black and white of it. That's the very, very basic form of it. But there are a few hidden things which I hopefully will cover in a minute. So the first thing to do is obviously to register for self-assessment. So you just need to click onto the government website and register for self-assessment. I've put a link into the blog post if you want to find it. If not, just Google self-assessment and you should find a .gov website, and then you can register from there. I believe they send a confirmation form or code or something through the post, and it does take up to 21 days to get it registered. So make sure you don't leave it till last minute, because you want to make sure you've got time to register, actually fill in the form and submit it before the deadline. So in order to register, you need to gather the necessary information. What I tend to do, because I don't have any major savings investments, I don't have a house, I'm not a landlord, all I do is look down my bank statement and see where the income has come from, and I'll record that into a spreadsheet. So generally I'll get payments into my main bank account and then into PayPal, so I will keep track of what goes in and note down what that payment was for, where it was from, and the amount. And you can get spreadsheets online. Again, I'll link a few in the blog post, but I kind of keep track of things that way. A lot of people do like to print them out. So if you print out your bank statements, highlight the things that are business income and just track all of that. You can do it either weekly or monthly, depending on how often you are getting self-employment income. I tend to do it every 3 months-ish, because I don't have enough income to like require to do it that often, but if you want to keep on track of it, I definitely recommend doing it at the end of the week if you do have quite a lot of things going in and out. And then I also do the same process with my outgoings. So if I have, for example, bought a new camera or bought some paper for my printer or bought a new printer or bought some postage stamps, then that classes as a business expense. I have listed all the business expenses in my blog post, so if you want a more detailed version of what you can claim back on, go over to there. But little things like that you can add up and take away from your net income. So I again go down my bank account and my PayPal because I generally try to only purchase things on card or via my PayPal account, because that leaves only two sources where the money can go in and out of. If you do buy anything via like cash or whatever, you need to save the receipts, but I just find that so confusing, and as like a creature of the digital age, I prefer to do it all via my bank account because I can see when it went in and out, and then I know I'm not going to lose the receipt because this is me. So basically, once I've gone down my bank account for the incoming and the outgoing, I work it all out, and using my little grid, I then see what my gross income is and tell the taxman. You may also need a variety of different paperwork. Again, I have a long list that I will leave in the blog post. This could be things like a P60, maybe something to do with your inheritance, anything that is kind of like a lump fee or something that's been unaccounted for and that is still taxable. You'll need the documentation for that, and I will leave a super handy PDF on the blog post for you to have a look at. Now, once you've kind of gathered the information, the documents, everything that you need to complete your assessment, you need to actually complete it. Who'd have thought? Now, this is the boring, awful, scary part that I dread every single year, but it is actually getting a lot simpler for me now, and practice makes perfect, honestly. So what I'd recommend is doing it online. They do offer a paper system of doing it, but like I said, creature of the digital age, I'd prefer to do it online. So you can register for self-assessment online via the link. You can go through the form, and what I really like about doing it online is that you can save it half finished and then visit it again. So if, for example, I only had 10 minutes to fill it out and I thought, right, I'll do the rest of it tomorrow, I can't do any more, I can press save and it'll just save where I'm up to, and then I can revisit it. Another benefit of doing it online actually is that the deadline is later. So the online deadline is actually 3 months later than the paper deadline. So if you're a sucker for always being late for everything, you've got an extra 3 months, but please don't leave it to the last minute because everyone does that and you don't want to be in that mad stress, trust me. And also, by submitting online, you're going to get a digital receipt via email. I also do like to print out my receipt. Generally, it's just like 10 pages of it saying not applicable, because there's a lot of things I don't need to apply for because I'm just a sole trader. But yeah, if you want to print it out, you can do, but obviously it's going to send you an email and you can include that in all your digital records with the rest of the documents. One thing you definitely don't want to do when filing a tax return is to file it late. Now, I actually accidentally filed my tax return late a couple of years ago. I thought I completed the online process, I pressed save, and it turns out I hadn't actually pressed the submit button. So make sure you triple read it, because every time I submit my return now, I have to like quadruple check that I've done it right, because I got a £100 fine, but luckily for me, I managed to send them a letter and explain the circumstances, and they refunded me the fine, which apparently is quite rare. So I don't know what I said in that letter, but it worked some magic. So yeah, you don't want to file it late because you're going to get a £100 fine, and no one wants that. And then after you've received your £100 fine, you've got 3 months to then submit your tax return. If you don't submit your tax return, they are going to then add £10 a day fine onto the existing £100. So basically, you don't want to file the tax return late because it's not going to end well. So in order to make sure you do everything on time, here are some key dates. I will put them up on screen. The 5th of April is the end of the tax year. The 6th of April is when the tax year begins. So my records always start on the 6th of April and they will go over to the next year and end on the 5th of April. Now, 31st of October is actually the deadline for a paper submission, and the 31st of January is the deadline for the online self-assessment paperwork. And you'll probably recognise when you're online that everyone starts to get stressed in January, because generally people want to leave it until after Christmas and then the deadline comes faster than you think and then everyone's panicking. So 31st of January is the very last deadline that you can pay it, and also the 31st of January is the date that you need to have paid your previous year's tax bill. This is all very confusing. I have written it all down and I've added extra sources in my blog post that will probably explain it a lot better than I am. So you might be watching this thinking, should I fill out a tax return? And I know I was doing this when I first kind of knew about it. And the basic way around this is if your income is from wages or a pension or just interest on savings accounts, then you don't need to file a self-assessment tax return because the tax is already automatically calculated for you. However, if you are earning more than £2,500 worth of money via self-employment, then you do need to file a self-assessment tax return. Now, I know that this is all very confusing. I've confused myself just saying it out loud, but I have left a whole bunch of different sources on my blog for you to check out. Hopefully it makes more sense. Don't forget that you can ask anyone. If you know someone around you who is a self-employed person, they won't mind giving you a little bit of advice. They probably have some better tips than I do, and just do your research. Also, one thing before I go, I actually recently have switched the way I do my tax returns, and if you watched last week's video to do with invoicing, you'll know what I'm going to say, but I've used a system called QuickBooks, and this is not a spawn, I wish it was, but QuickBooks has like changed how I do my tax returns. It's basically doing it for me every single day. So when it gets to the 5th of April, the end of the tax year, then it is all worked out ready and all I need to do is submit the form via the government gateway. But QuickBooks has made my life so much easier, and it's for like a small monthly fee. So if you're in the area of getting so confused or getting a little bit overwhelmed with invoicing and tracking your mileage and expenses and those different extra things that I didn't even know about, try out QuickBooks. I think they do a free trial actually, so again, I'll link it in the blog post. So yeah, I definitely recommend QuickBooks if you are totally confused by it all, but you definitely do need to do your research before you get started so you don't miss anything out. Right then, I guess that's it. I hope this was of some use. I have completely confused myself saying all this stuff out loud, so let me know if you do have any questions in the comments. Like I said, not an expert. I'm learning as I go and I'm sharing what I know with you guys. So if you know anything that I've not mentioned, please do let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Let me know what you want to see for the next Freelance Friday, and I'll see you soon for another video. Bye!